So, but just to preface that, this won't be the entire Evil Dead franchise, more of a continuation from my James Ramblin' review episode last week. I wasn't going to do it for the James Ramblin' reviews because I already talked about other stuff that had nothing to do with Evil Dead. And so, right, the continuation of this franchise consists mostly of Army of Darkness, the Evil Dead 2013 movie, and of course Ash vs Evil Dead, which I did watch quite a lot today, just so I knew what I was going to discuss when I get to that bit of the show, a bit of the segment or whatever you want to call that. So that out of the way, Army of Darkness is pretty much this movie that when you watch the second movie, right at the end of the second movie, Ash goes back to this different time period. I think it's 1300 AD or whatever. And then he has to get the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon, whatever. That's kind of the plot of the movie. So he does that, and it's a 90-minute movie. Watched it on YouTube, because they had a full HD version that wasn't YouTube movies whatsoever. So you get to see that, and where that leads. And he fights all these skeletons, but he comes across these knights, and these, like, people, pretty much. They're not American like the actors in the other movies. They're English. You definitely hear that. It's definitely more of a comedic spin on the Evil Dead franchise. Like, Evil Dead is mostly consisting of this gory, over the top, dramatic thing. But this movie kind of takes that slapstick humour you knew from the second movie and just makes it giant, makes it more of a presence in the movie. Especially, just give you an example here, right? It's a point in the movie where Ash, his face goes really big, like I believe there's even an image of it. I'll just do that for a bit of evidence here, right? Okay, Army of Darkness, Ash big face. I think that's what you. But he has like different. It's like Ash's face is like he's got different. His body is like that. It's kind of weird and a bit hard to describe if you haven't really seen the movie before. Where is it? Alright, I'll see if this will do anything, but right, so okay. Alright, I'm just trying to find it. Alright, it looks like that. Right, I'll put it back. I'll put it full screen here. Right, so that's what it looks like. His face is like molded pretty much. Because the movie just goes over the top crazy. But it doesn't go over the top because he gore. There's also a great action scene towards the end of the movie. And it is regarded as one of the weaker Evil Dead movies because it's got like 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's regarded as that because it's less gory and it's more PG-13. But that's not to say that I didn't like the movie. I like this movie. It's not the best in the franchise, but I don't even think there's a bad movie in this franchise because of what is being thrown and what Sam Raimi has done here. And so when we do that, once we get out of Army of Darkness, we then go to the 2013 film, which isn't directed by Sam Raimi, but it's got an executive producer of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, which it's directed by, let me find his name again, or he's or her's name, whatever. Alright. Where is it? 2013. Yeah, it's quote unquote a remake, and you're gonna find out why it really isn't not a remake whatsoever. Alright, so it's directed by Fede Alvarez or whatever. Right, let me look at this person. It's a man, right? Just to confirm, it is a male director, but yeah. So it takes place in a cabin in the woods, which is the original movie. But what it does is it gives us a reason why they ended up there. Because in the first movie, it's like, oh, they just kind of show up, but the main girl Mia gets drugged, and that's the reason why they can't go away from it. Can't go away from trying to get away from the evil that is in this cabin or whatever, in this forest cabin, whatever. Right. So you get that. Also, there's the quality kind of jumps up again, and there's better special effects because it is 2013, and so the special effects from the 80s towards the 2013 is obviously going to change, but it is good how the franchise keeps upping itself and upping itself and upping itself with the quality of the storytelling and quality of the way it's produced. but I guess you do kind of lose that novelty of how Sam Raimi just had a low budget movie and it was just very different and a bit quirky and a bit, you know, stuff like that. It was just a bit different. But this movie, it modernizes it. But I feel like that's good about it. It's like, okay, we have a bit of a different kind of take on this because there's no Ash. It doesn't humiliate Ash or anything. It doesn't destroy anything. Like Terminator, the Terminator franchise pretty much gave itself the middle finger, and a lot of these franchises, when they go on for so long, they just don't care. They don't understand what it's doing anymore. But so this one doesn't tarnish the past. It's like, okay, we know this happened in the past, but we're gonna use different characters. We're gonna use a different plot. We're gonna try do something different and experiment with how we could improve upon and increase the quality and the special effects rather than this is terrible. The past sucks. Your nostalgia is bad. None of this bullshit that you get from modern Hollywood. None of that crap. And so it never does that. And that's what's great about the Evil Dead franchise. Is it tries to find that creative sense of, okay, no rehashing. Let's just do any kind of thing. So that's kind of my emphasis on Army of Darkness and the 2013 Evil Dead, and I was repeating myself, but because we're talking about a similar topic here, then that's kind of why I'm regurgitating a certain amount of stuff here. So then we get to Ash versus Evil Dead, which is a TV show that first of all came out on Stars, which was this platform, and nobody knew, not everyone knew about it. It wasn't like this Netflix, HBO Max thing, so not everyone was able to watch it, and I'm pretty sure that's what led to it being cancelled. But pretty much it's about Ash coming back 30 years later with these characters called Pablo, Kelly, and there's some other characters as well in here. And it's 3 seasons, and I've only watched up to like halfway through season 2, and I did it so I can know what I was talking about. So for about the first season, it's just Ash doing this fun stuff. I feel like the series is quite a fun series. It's not the most perfect series, especially when we get to season 2, but it's just fun seeing the interactions between Ash and these characters and just seeing them do these things. That's what's great about it. But after a while, it just feels repetitive and it's the same bag of tricks. Like, okay, they're gonna take out the demons. 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 And so there's no urgency to try something a bit different. And I did read online that they were debating between this idea of the fourth Evil Dead movie. They didn't really have the funding for it, so they made a TV series. But I do feel like Evil Dead doesn't really fit a TV show. Like, it is just, there's not enough material. There's just not enough to do for like an entire show. If it was done better though, then maybe we could have seen that. But it's just a different kind of story that just can't withstand more than one season because there's only so much you can do after a while. And so once you get into the second season, it's like, right, we get Ash, and then you introduced his dad, and then all this stuff kind of happens. Like, his dad gets introduced, but then you've got this lady who was the creator of the book, and she has to kill her children, and all this stuff is just happening and happening and happening. And so you go from like that simple fun stuff you got in the first season to worrying about 4 things at the same time. I don't know where it's going to lead on from there, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's like, okay, it's fun, it gets repetitive, and then it just stumbles all over the place in that second season, but I didn't hate it. There's still fun to be had. So I've kind of said a lot about the Evil Dead franchise in this episode, and we talked about horror movies last week, but this is not necessarily horror. Like, okay, Evil Dead is a horror franchise, but I mean, Army of Darkness is not a horror movie whatsoever, so it's kind of the same but different, I guess. So with that out of the way,